Welcome to From Chaos to Code, Rebuilding the Iron Mind, where we talk about the real side of men's health. Not the Instagram highlight reel, not the fake stoicism, but the honest effects that happen when life hits you harder than any workout ever could. I'm your host, Ricardo, and I've lived a few different lives. Teacher, property manager, MMA promoter, garage mechanic, handyman, empath. I've been the man everyone leans on, the one who fixes things. Until the weight of it all almost broke me. Here, we want to talk about what that really costs. When being the strong one becomes survival instead of strength. How burnout, silence, and pride slowly eat away at you until you realize you've built armor so thick that you can't even breathe under it. This isn't about weakness, it's about rebuilding. Learning that real strength isn't about how much you can carry. It's about knowing when to set it down. So let's start there, with the cost of being the strong one and what it actually takes to reclaim your iron mind. So today I want to talk about what really costs when being the strong one becomes survival instead of strength. How burnout, silence, and pride slowly eat away at you until you realize you've built armor so thick that you can't even breathe under it. I'm not here to bash any sort of masculine stereotypes. I believe that a man has to be strong. There's the one quote that to be strong, to be threatening, to be peaceful, you have to have the ability for violence. You have to have the capacity for violence. If you don't have that strength to begin with, you're not peaceful. You're harmless. Now, once again, completely ad-libbed quotation there. I just wanted to make sure that I emphasize it with my authenticity, which is the entire point of this podcast. So this episode isn't about weakness, it's about rebuilding. And that could be rebuilding from a point of extreme low or low that you feel is low for yourself. There's no standard here. Once again, I'm going to speak to those that tend to be fairly strong in their lives. And those of you that feel you're not strong, I want you to understand that you can become strong. But once again, in order to be strong, you have to have the capacity for strength and building that up with discipline. So learning the real strength isn't about how much you can carry, it's about knowing when to set it down. So why don't we start there with the cost of being the strong one and what it actually takes to reclaim that iron mind, to go from chaos to code. Now, I've spent about 18, 19 years teaching, about 16 of those in high school. So when that comes down to it, as we know with the ongoing teachers' strike in Alberta, hence the time for this podcast, there's always some sort of issue that you're dealing with every single day. Any fellow teachers, you know that the second you walk in that door, you are on. It does not deviate even from a moment. You're on from the second you go in there. Maybe you can turn it off at lunch or tone it down for those 15 minutes you might get if you're not supervising or dealing with exams or catching up or dealing with some personal issue. And then the second you walk out the door, it doesn't necessarily turn off. It just tapers down if you're able to. And when you walk out that door, it doesn't mean that you've dropped everything. You're taking home marking, you're coaching. If you're like myself, you're sitting here planning international trips, working on the yearbook, dealing with advanced classes, working for Alberta Education when it's diploma time. So it is complex. Besides teaching, I also manage one of the country's most premier MMA companies. I've worked everything from it for the past 14 years, from wristbanding at the door all the way to ensuring operations for the entire promotion. Recently, I've scaled back in order to just design and execute the broadcast, but I'm still structuring an entire show, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth every single time we do a show, and I'm responsible for organizing all the individuals inside of that. So, when it comes down to the idea of living discipline, I'm not just here to talk about discipline. I have to live it in every aspect of my life, from the time I get up to the time I go to sleep. Because besides just work, there's also health aspects, there's relationship, there's family. I mean, at my age, I have aging parents. Thank God they are strong for their age. But when it comes down to it, there's lots of people that depend on you outside of this. Now, I'm a first-generation Portuguese, sul-soriano. With that comes a lot of unspoken experience. So there's that idea of being raised with loyalty, family, your toughness is commandments. When it comes to emotion, that's not something we really expressed. I'm not saying that we didn't have love or affection in the family or it was some sort of extreme we could never express. But I learned very early on in order to kind of suppress emotion and deal with what had to be done. By that same standpoint, in my early years, I also encountered that in school because I ended up in a junior high where you were either predator or prey, and I didn't want to end up as prey. This is why emotional expression was pretty hard for me to learn. So eventually, I hit a wall, and I've hit a wall a few different times in my life. Now, hitting a wall doesn't necessarily mean that you completely burn out. Hitting a wall can look like different aspects for certain people. I've hit many different walls here. I've burnt out from work. I've been in toxic relationships where I definitely was giving energy to other people rather than my own, and that's that empathetic teacher aspect coming into play. And when it comes down to it, I'm building everybody else's life except my own. Add on to that I was burning out from anabolic steroid use for a decade, so I completely crashed my hormones and my health. COVID hit. On top of that, I was destroyed by the original strain. Yes, it exists. And then long COVID put me out of work for a few months, and that's the point where my entire persona just dropped away. When I was seeing a psychologist at the time, a former military vet whose wife happened to be from the same hometown as my dad, so he already had that cultural understanding. He said that I spent so much time staying closed up and not sharing anything that I felt when other people were weak, I looked down on them. Now, the whole entire problem of me at that time is my health was destroyed, so I was perceiving myself as weak. And it was this entire self-criticism that I just couldn't shake off. Now, this is just a general idea of my background here. This will be the introduction portion of this, and I'll get into everything else in further podcasts. This is not going to be an hour long. I'm going to try to keep these to about 15 minutes to give you as much information as you need in the most efficient amount of time. But I will say that no matter what happens, if it's burnout, hitting a wall, completely destroying your life, or something external too, there's always a recovery arc. And that recovery arc comes through things like training, discipline, reflection, and absolute brutal honesty. So this podcast is going to be a combination of the real work that I've put in with anecdotal evidence. At the exact same time, I will be pulling from any sort of authorities on these subjects that we discuss. And by authority, I mean individuals who are qualified to speak, not just other anecdotes or Instagram information. Because I don't have a background in therapy, don't expect therapy speak, just expect the real work that we'll have to have. And I want that aspect of real work to really resonate with you, because this is something that you could put in your daily life. So, my entire mission. I'm here to give us men the conversation I wish I had. Not to make us soft, because a soft man isn't a man, but to help us from stopping breaking quietly. Future conversations will talk about what strength really means beyond muscle, why silence kills men faster than weakness. And I want your takeaway to be from these coming up that strong does not equal silent. Strong equals self-aware. And if we can move beyond that self-awareness to articulations of strength and self-awareness, then you're in that top capacity. Once again, this isn't for someone who feels they're extremely weak and that's all they have. This is for those who are strong and are rebuilding. These are for soldados. That's it for today's episode of From Chaos to Code, Rebuilding the Iron Mind. If something in this hit you, take a second to sit with it before you scroll away. Write it down, apply it, share it with a brother who might need to hear it. The whole goal here isn't perfection, it's progress. Real men doing the real work of getting stronger, clearer, and more grounded every day. If you want to keep these conversations going, subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen. And if you want to stay around after the episode, I'll be releasing tracks I've made using my own writing and AI music development. Each episode will feature a new track in a variety of genres that I use to express myself. Keep the chaos in check and keep the code alive. I appreciate all of you. Thanks for listening.
Storm approaching, I can see it from the watchtower. A list of regrets held tighter than any vow. Tried to outrun the ache, lost track of the hour. Think I need to be alone for a little while now. The road is long, but so is my faith. Each mile I carry your shadow and weight. Price of love was more than I could pay. Still I begged for one more day. Save my soul, I'm breaking in the rain. Tried to outride the wind, outrun the flame. This outlaw's love was more than I could pay. Still I begged for one more day. Save my soul, I'm breaking in the rain. Tried to outride the wind, outrun the flame. This outlaw's love was never tame. Now I'm drowning in your name like a ghost I can't escape. Storm rolls through, tearing me in two. Every thunderclap just sounds like you. Trapped between heaven and my heart, I keep driving, don't know where to start. Fell too hard, but stood too proud. Love spoke soft, I only knew Now silence lives where your touch once stayed. Even the sky looks the other way. Maybe time will burn this haze away. Maybe love will find me when I've learned to stay. But until the calm takes hold again, I ride the edge between loss and win. Save my soul, I'm breaking in the rain. Tried to outride the wind, outrun the flame. This outlaw's love was more than I could pay. Still I beg for one more day. Like a ghost I can't escape.